And a good thing tonight, we're on time, something that sometimes doesn't happen with us. You know how technology is. This is yourlocalnote.com. Welcome to another vidcast. We've got a very special guest tonight. We're very, very happy that he's joining us. It's David Ivory, legendary producer here in Philadelphia. He's kind enough to sit with us, and we're going to be talking about music, local music, and just music in general. He's brought some music that he wants to showcase, and we're going to be doing all that in just a few minutes. I just want to remind you once again, since we are broadcasting live and streaming live, we just want to let you know that we will run a commercial or two. We work with Ustream TV, and they will pop up a commercial or two. It's 10, 15, maybe 30 seconds long. And the reason we do this is we can keep the price at zero. So this way, we keep the show free. You don't have to pay anything, but if you have some patience, we really appreciate that. So if it pops up, don't think that there's something wrong. We're going to be right back to us. So please, again, thank you for your patience. Also want to remind you that we stream 24/7, nothing but the best Philadelphia area music. All the musicians we play, they are from the Philadelphia area, and you can get our free app by just going to the respective stores. Type in YLN and download it for free, and you can take yourlocalnote.com with you anywhere you want. Okay, we're going to be talking with David Ivory in just a few minutes, but we've got a song by a singer called Chess, or is that a band?
That's her name.
It's her name. Okay, Chess. The song is called Jungle, and this is yourlocalnote.com.
Welcome to my world, honey. I'm gonna make you feel good, honey. But don't make me regret this. One false move, I'ma make you pay for it. Don't even try to tame me, baby. That's just the way it was made, baby. Counting my dollars and buy my own things. Independent woman is my whole game. I don't recruit any guy I see. Gotta meet the checklist of priorities. Just gonna take a second to say you're a dime a dozen if I'm looking your way. I don't wanna say I'm a bad bitch, 'cause it's just so harsh, you know. Please don't take this the wrong way. I've been waiting for you to catch up. Ooh. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby. So can you handle this, baby? You about to break a sweat, baby. I don't wanna push it too hard. Let me show you how it goes and raise the bar. I don't wanna say I'm a bad bitch, 'cause it's just so harsh, you know. Please don't take this the wrong way. I've been waiting for you to catch up. I've been waiting. Now I've got you in my. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Welcome to my jungle. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby.
Dior, yeah, another shot, get her ready, and we losing control. Waiting, no hesitation, it's time to go. Pimp game tight, I be by the door. She say, welcome to the jungle, I'm an animal. My style lit it, boy, I'm talking get it and go. Black shades, easy does it, she can tell how I flow. She got an ass like, damn, her lips like, whoa. I'ma bring it to my jungle, I'm an animal.
Don't wanna say I'm a bad bitch, 'cause it's just so harsh, you know. Please don't take this the wrong way. I've been waiting for you to catch up. I've been waiting. Now I've got you in my jungle. Now you're in my jungle, baby. 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 Welcome to my jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby. Now you're in my jungle, baby.
The song is called Jungle, and the singer is Chess, and we are not hanging out with her. We're hanging out with David Ivory, who produced that song. David, thank you so much for joining us here at yourlocalnote.com.
Pleasure being here. I've heard a lot about this show, so I was more than happy to jump right in and be part of it.
Very cool. Now, this is going to be a little different because usually at this point in time, we'll tell you to talk a little bit about yourself, how the band got together, and how you wrote this song and all that other good stuff. So we're going to take a little bit of a different angle here, obviously because you produced this song. But let's take a little step back and an overview of David Ivory Productions, and your studio right now is called
Delanova, yep.
Delanova Studios, and how you got to that, how you went from your studios, different studios. Just a real quick overview.
Okay, well, I started my career at in Royersford, which I built a geodesic dome studio. It was very cool. It was at the beginning, at like the mid '80s, so video was really taking off, and the environment was really cool. It was literally a geodesic dome inside a building, so it was pretty wild looking. So Prism was happening at the time before Comcast, and we used to shoot videos there, and I did a lot of great records. I produced like Bo Diddley and Flora Purim and Aerto Moreri and all kinds of crazy jazz people, and Jimmy Bruno, and we did a lot of cool rock bands like the Daves back in the day and stuff. And then that kind of happened, and then in the 90s, I sold that business and moved to Sigma Sound, which was the premier studio of one of probably pretty much the East Coast. I mean, it was an amazing facility. So I was an independent producer there.
Oh, okay.
So I had my own room. I had basically an empty room that I equipped myself. So I kind of like rented a studio there.
You were an independent contractor.
Yeah,
then.
pretty much.
Okay.
And for 10 years, and that's when I developed I actually gave the Roots a spec deal. You know, I was part of helping them out with that. We shared the same attorney, so it was like sort of a no-brainer. Hey, help me out with these guys, and I did.
Okay.
And then we commenced then to do 5 more records all the way.
Nice.
The last record I did with them was Things Fall Apart, which just recently went platinum.
Wow.
So that's cool.
Now, when you were working with them in the beginning, did you see how much talent they had?
Oh my God! Yeah.
Did you?
It was so.
You weren't surprised that they've reached the level they have.
Not at all. I mean, like in my studio, I would have D'Angelo, Common, Scott Storch, all the Roots, Jazzies, all jamming in my room every night. I mean, I used to like send faxes to like the Inquirer and Tom Moon and say like, "Hey, these guys are here," and like no one could. The Roots, who are the Roots? Who's Common? Who's this Erica Badu chick? Like no one would even. I couldn't get them arrested.
Wow.
I tried, all the hip writers. Hey, come on, they were still on the Dead Milkmen or something. I don't know what their story was.
There is just history is just littered with stories of these bands, these artists who couldn't get arrested.
Right.
And then
Lizzie Hale.
All of a sudden, they just blow up.
Lizzie Hale, same story. I found her in 2003, shopping her 2003, 2004, 2005. I mean, the biggest, there's no girls in rock, because at that time there wasn't, Yeah, there was Evanescence. That was the only female type rock, but there was one, and no girls in rock, blah blah blah. Now she's like the biggest thing since sliced bread. It's like, oh my God, she's so amazing. No kidding, But that's how the music business is.
Well, a lot of it has to be getting the right break and exposure.
Yes.
And I tell this story all the time, where when I was programming a station up in Springfield, Massachusetts, we were working for a big corporation, and they didn't tell us at this point. They didn't tell us what to play. But they made it clear how they wanted you to run their radio station, and it was very hard to break new artists. But occasionally we were able to do that. My music director and I would be able to sneak a song on and let it play enough that we could do a music test. And we just found out that if you get the right exposure,
things can happen.
Yes.
And you guys at the time in the day were very integral to trying to make those things happen. I can't tell you how many little bands got their breaks from guys like you who took a chance to spin something. The problem is, it's just like, there's just not a lot of leaders in this business. There's a lot of followers. There's just not a lot of leaders.
Oh, I ran into that. I can tell you nightmare stories of that type of situation, and I'm sure you've run into it too.
A million times. It's just like even with Lizzie. I mean, the A&R, some of the A&R people that are working with her today saw her and didn't buy it, and now they're like her major A&R people. It's like crazy to me. So it's just like, that's the business though, and you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in your product, and that's just the way it is. I mean, there's really nothing else to it except that. And of course, the main thing is writing great songs, which is where the big problem lies.
Good is good. I mean, if you got a good song, it's going to find a place.
Unfortunately, now though, good is not even good enough. It's got to be like freaking awesome. The bar. It's great that the everybody has a computer, and now everybody's a producer, and everybody can make records out of their bedroom. The problem is most of those records sound that way.
Yes.
So the problem is, how do you get, how are you able to still kind of do it yourself, but yet still get that outside objective opinion that's not emotionally attached to your song, that someone has enough experience to be able to help you with that song, maybe even write a part to the song that you're missing, typically a bridge, and put that together. That's the difficult part.
Okay. Let's take a step back and go back to Jungle by Chess and talk a little bit about that song.
Sure.
Now, she's a singer that came to you. She's actually from New York.
Yes.
But everybody that played on that song was from the Philly area.
Yes, Philadelphia.
Do you have, I guess you would have just a Rolodex full of people that you can call on and play. Do you try to match up certain musicians with certain artists?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I do. As a matter of fact, with Chess, I mean, she was brought to me by Bob Coyle, who was one of the owners of I call it the middle Grape Street, the second Grape Street, which was there on the main street of Manny out there. And he brought her to me and said, "Look, this girl's great. She sings great. I think she's got some songs. I'm not sure. What can you do?" So it just so happened at that particular time, a good songwriting partner of mine, Cam Huff. He wrote two hits for Mario. He worked with 50 Cent, Christina Aguilera, and he was in Miami the whole time. He just moved back to Delaware.
Oh, okay.
So I said, okay. So, I typically assemble some sort of a team around someone because, I'm a producer and I play, but
Right.
I mean, I'm not foolish enough to think I can do everything. So I get the best people to do whatever they got to do. So basically, and the keyboard player I wanted to bring onto this, because this is very synth-based. This isn't really like a rock and roll kind of situation. So a lot of it's synth-based and a lot of it's writing-based. So I brought in Damon Bennett, who plays keys for Jill Scott, plays Jay-Z, plays with Kindred, Mesa, like a whole bunch of people he plays with. So he's my keyboard writer, basically, that I brought in. So between Chess, Cam, Damon, and I, we pretty much wrote, played, and did all of her material. And she's an amazing, talented artist. She's really good, and she's got a great voice.
Do you ever run into an artist? I mean, you have just, obviously a great resume and, a great background, great reputation. I mean, I would think there are times that artists would be intimidated by coming in and working with you. And part of what an artist needs to do is be themselves.
Right.
And that can be the toughest thing, especially when they feel that they're surrounded with a lot of talent themselves.
Sure.
I mean, that's
we goof around a lot.
How do you do that?
We just goof around a lot. I let my dogs come out,
Okay.
whatever. It's a pretty relaxed environment.
Okay.
I work on my property. I'm not in my house, but I have a building on my property that's a studio. Plus, I have another cabin out in the back that's another little studio too. So it's kind of more, the mood is kind of set when you get there. It's kind of relaxed and laid back, and all my people are just a bunch of goofballs. I mean, we just laugh and have a good time. So you might be intimidated at first, but when you see that I'm a knucklehead like everybody else, then it's okay. You kind of just get into the groove.
Just kind of curious with that. I mean, because I could see a person coming in and just being intimidated from the get-go.
Yeah, and that is the thing, especially if they're, they come in, they see gold records, they see a big console, they're like saying, oh, well, but I think it's all in your attitude and how you approach things. I mean, like yourself, people come in to do a radio interview. I mean, they can be intimidated by that, and your job is to relax them. So that's kind of my job too, in a way.
Okay, very cool. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to play another tune, and this is actually something that is going to be. I think it's really cool. We're going to play a song that was sent to you. Mm-hmm. And this is the way it was sent to you, and then we're going to play the version after you worked with it.
Right.
And we're going to talk about it. So we're not going to play the whole song right now. We'll play about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. You'll let us know when we should stop.
Right, and then we can take and I can talk to you about how we changed it and all that stuff.
Right, and then we'll play that version.
Awesome.
And then we'll come back and talk about that. All right, we're hanging with David Ivory, producer here in the Philadelphia area. The song is called "Never Too Late." You know what? I never asked you who does this song.
Now, you get this is going to be it's called Silver Tongue. not to be confused with Silver Tide.
Okay, the
So
band is
it's
Silver Tongue.
Tung, and most of them are out of the D.C., Baltimore area. One of them's from around here,
Okay.
but the majority are from D.C.
Okay, this is what they sent David. This is what he asked to listen to. We're going to listen to a part of it right here on yourlocalnote.com.
Razor's edge don't lie when you slide it. Don't close your eyes. You might miss the show you started. It's your time to change those fears you're hiding down below, where things get so distorted now. 'Cause it's hard to find the things you wanna say. Tied up in how it got this way. Reach down low, screaming yeah, 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 yeah. It's never too late, never too late, never too late to shake hands. Never too late to make it right. Never too late, never too late, never too late to shake hands. Never too late to make it right. I've been here once before. No strength lying on the floor. One step from right to black, then there's no turning back. Don't let this be the end, 'cause I know that it's hard to find the things you wanna say.
All right, the song is called Never Too Late. The band is Silver Tongue. Now, this is a song that was sent to you, David. Is this sort of like a demo that they sent to you?
Well, yeah, actually, they actually released it.
Okay.
But on a record, and they came to me to produce a song because they wanted a single that they could really, put some money behind and try to get it on radio. Because I'm still the philosophy that radio is still an amazing means. Yes, it's difficult to get into, but if you can get it, it's worth its weight in gold.
Absolutely.
And so I'm one of those who like radio. I think it's good to be commercial. So I listened to their album, and this song to me seemed like the best candidate.
Okay.
My problems with it were that it seemed dated. It was too slow. It didn't pay off properly. There was no kind of interesting elements to it that made it a little bit more quote unquote hip.
Got it.
When you're competing with records like this, in which a lot of musicians seem to like forget about that, you're competing on a record like this. You're competing with Hinder. You're competing with Slipknot. No one's listening to your record and going like, oh well, they didn't have a budget, they had to do it real fast.
Yes.
I call it disclaimer records.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you hand somebody a disc and you have a list of disclaimers with
Right.
it. So you can't do that.
No.
So it's got to compete with people who are spending $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 on a song. So in order to do that, besides just the recording or the kick drum sound, it's a lot to do with the arrangement, bridges. Like that song didn't even have a bridge to it, and a lot of people write verse chorus, and they might do a breakdown and think that's a bridge, but that's not really a bridge. A bridge is a bridge. It takes you from one place to another in the song and then brings you back, just like a bridge does. Like I crack up when when look at the literal definition of chorus, it's like multiple people singing. You know,
Right.
It's very difficult to sing a song that's got 40 words in the chorus, multiple people. So, you know, so anyway, so what I did was rearranged.
Now, did you tell them all of this when they?
Sure. Well, they have to buy into it. I
So
mean,
you sit down with them and say, okay, here's what I hear.
Well, I do that, but I do that actually when they're in front of me
Right.
in band formation. So
Okay.
they come in, they set it all up, and we go because, you know, you can say a lot of things to people. But when you actually show them and they play it for themselves,
Okay.
all the light bulbs go off. You know,
Gotcha.
and
Okay.
then so, you know, we wrote a little difference of a bridge or a chorus, and I wrote a bridge. I work with also a good associate of mine, Joe Lamb, who helps me with production on stuff, and he's part of the whole thing too, so he helps out. And basically, what I did was, put some hip elements into it. Make the arrangement very tight, wrote a middle part to the chorus, and then wrote a bridge. And then basically, we rehearsed all this painstakingly and to the click and picked the right tempo. In fact, this tempo changes, which is kind of rare for me, but this tempo changes 2 different times in the song. The intro's at one tempo, the rest of the song's another. And then in the middle of the song, it goes back to sort of like the intro, and it slows down again. And I really wanted that to happen because when it slows down and it goes back into the intro feel, it gets more emotional, and it feels like it's sadder and darker because it's slowing down.
Got it.
You can't really tell, but it slows down significantly, actually. For all you techies out there, it's about 8 BPM. But so what I do, you have to work out all these pieces, and I always work out everything before we record it. Like
So you got the song, and you then did all that work on that before they
we
even came
recorded it. Yeah, with them in pre-production. So like they kind of knew even what it was going to sound like, real rough, of course.
Right.
But before we even tracked it. That way, when you're tracking, you're not wondering what the part is. You're actually owning the part.
Okay, and it was then I take it then when they're in the studio and you're showing them what kind of changes you want to make to the song, it's probably easier for them to comprehend.
Oh, sure, and then
accept.
they buy into it, and then also they then come up with their ideas. See, it's not really necessarily it's my idea. It's like, look, let's try this, and then here I'll sing you this line, and then they might come up with the words to the melody I sang them, and then all of a sudden we're all owning it, and then it's all part of the whole process.
So you push. Okay, I see what you're doing. You're pushing them, so they take ownership of it. Because when they take ownership of it, they're going to cooperate.
Well, and also they see it, because it's like it's not that subjective. Usually the whole room knows when it's a better part or it's a better arrangement. It's like light bulbs,
Right.
I mean,
Right. It goes
you
off.
get it. You
Everyone
like,
sees.
okay, I get it. That's right.
Okay.
You even though you're a little stubborn or something, you might go like, I get it. You're right. So like that's the kind of thing, because the bottom line, you're all working to create a hit, to create a great song.
Right.
So, I mean, if I write this part or you write that part or whatever, as long as it's a great part, that's how you win.
Okay.
You don't win by, you wrote it, so I don't like it, so it's my song. And that's not how you win.
No, I know.
I mean, just look at any major record credits.
Yes.
I mean, there's like 40 people now that write songs.
Well, I have a lot of experience programming country stations.
Right.
And in Nashville, no one
No.
writes by themselves.
No.
They all write
No.
together. You'll
And-
never see a song written by one person.
And Nashville's driven by great songs.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. And it's not like you need a lot of people, but you just got to know that you got to have a great song.
Okay. All right, then let's take a listen now. This is now the after version. And we'll come back and we'll talk more with David Ivory here on yourlocalnote.com. The song is called Never Too Late. The band is Silver Tongue.
Razor's edge, don't lie when you slide it. Don't close your eyes, you might miss the show you started. It's your time to change those fears you're hiding down below, where things get so distorted now. 'Cause it's hard to find things you wanna say, tied up too late to shake it. Never too late to make it right. When life gets tough, we can make it better. Turn the page and set your soul. Never too late to make it right, 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 right. It's never too late, never too late, never too late to shake it. Never too late to make it right. Yeah, never too late, never too late, never too late. Never too late, never too late, never too late to make it.
Song is called Never Too Late. The band is Silver Tongue. Now that's after David Ivory got a hold of it. And it is, I didn't listen to the songs on purpose. You sent them to us today, but I didn't listen to them because we were doing a before and after, and I wanted to just get the sound right now. And when I first heard the band, I'm like, these guys are pretty good. I want to see what David does. Wow.
Yeah, thanks.
On the second one, it just explodes.
Yeah, thanks.
And the things that you explained as far as the bridge is concerned and how you added things,
Right.
It just really, it's a big song now. Where before it was a nice song.
Yeah.
They did a good job.
And
with
as I said, like, nice is nice,
Right.
but it's got to be freaking amazing, And last week they went to radio last week, and it entered at 38
Nice.
on the Billboard mainstream rock heat index chart.
Cool.
So it was above Slipknot and one under Hinder, and that's where it entered. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you want to compete, you have to do the right kind of music to compete and to be on,
Unfortunately, for a lot of bands, they can't compete because of money. Money's a big deal right now.
Sure, money is a big deal, and money is a definite thing. And I always, the problem is the bands aren't aware enough to make deals. Like, in other words, some bands don't have that much money, but maybe if I believe in them, or if another producer believes in them, maybe you'll do it for some of the publishing or something like that. But as soon as you say something like that to uneducated musicians,
Right.
they think it's like you're going to rip them off,
Right.
and they don't understand that it's a normal practice. And when I work with bands in LA, like, it's like a given. Like, it's like not even an issue when you
That you're
talk
gonna get-
about, if you're going to write a track, you're going to get co-writing, or
Sure.
it's like it's not even an issue.
Right.
But for some reason in this area, bands just don't understand, and I guess for years they've been told, if you give this away, you'll never, you can't ever give this away. But the problem is, 100% of nothing's still nothing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Well,
you can own all your stuff, but
Part of the problem is the horror stories coming from record companies.
sure, but if you have a half a brain and you do some due diligence of understanding how the music business works, it's not really, these are not 50-page agreements. They're simple.
But you're dealing with people who are desperate.
Right.
That I understand what you're saying. You're right, half a brain, and I tell this story all the time. We worked with this young lady. She was a teenager at the time. She was 14, and she had a great voice, and she got a chance to get a record deal down in Nashville. Now, her father was a lawyer.
Right.
When he was smart enough to get another
An
person.
entertainment attorney. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
But he called me up because we had done quite a bit of work with her. He called me up in the middle of negotiations. He was beside himself.
Right.
He said, I'm pissed at how this is going.
Right.
I said, you don't understand, Paul.
Right.
This is a situation where they're dealing with desperate people.
Right.
And they're taking advantage of it because they want to make as much money as possible.
Well, and sometimes that's the truth, but and now it's not quite like that. But it is now. It's a different. Before record labels used to just take the earnings. Now they're involved in publishing. They're involved in
Merchandise,
your
and
shows, the whole
yeah.
bit. So yes, that is true. But all I know is if bands say like Lizzie that I work with didn't do a deal, she'd be definitely singing in Atlantic City right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those things, and deals are meant to be changed. But you can't expect somebody who is good at what they do
Right.
and can really help your song,
Right.
and expect them to do it for what the guy does down the street at
You get what you pay
35 an
for.
hour. Right. So I mean, if you drive a Porsche, it's going to cost you a little bit more than it's than a
Yes.
Volkswagen. I mean, that's just the
Absolutely.
way it goes. But the thing is too, back to the money. I mean, bands just have to understand how the business works in a real clear way, because they would be able to negotiate so much better if they did. I just think that it's just like a non-starter when it should be like, well, if you want 20%, well, what if we do this? Or,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's always ways, especially,
And you can put time limits
put it
on
this
too,
way,
right?
everybody, yeah, of course, and everybody's like in a certain way desperate to try to get something really good. I mean, I'm always looking for somebody who's an act or a band or something. But the bottom line is, you got to assemble a team, and you got to believe in that team and work and focus on really good songs. And I'll tell you, if you write really good songs, you'd be surprised. A lot of bands put a lot of time into things they don't need to be putting time into.
Give me an example. What are they doing that they're wasting time in?
I think bands sometimes put, to be honest with you, they need to put as much emphasis on playing live and getting gigs as they do recording songs. Now you could say, oh, it costs money to record songs. No, it doesn't. I mean, like, it doesn't cost money to write songs, and it doesn't cost money to make your songs better.
Right.
Yeah, it costs money to go into a professional studio or hire a producer, but it doesn't cost money to hone your craft.
Right.
You got to buy a microphone, or you can do it on your phone. But I'm just saying, like, that's, and it seems to me there's so much emphasis on, I'll do anything for a gig, when it needs to be sort of split up. Well, I'll do anything to write a better song.
Yeah, I see that. Problems with I think bands are running into with gigs now is because of social media, the venues are relying on them to bring people in.
Sure.
And that becomes a problem, especially if you're from South Jersey coming into Philadelphia
of
on a
course.
Tuesday night. Your people aren't going to follow you.
Right, and what I do with all the bands I work with, because I'm in a unique situation, because I have a lot of bands that I work with throughout the years or
Right.
just currently.
Right.
I do shows that I pull all my bands together and do a show and have that network with each other. Because as you see, I do bands from DC, from
Yeah.
Philly, from
Yeah.
New York, from
Yeah.
Harrisburg, whatever. And all those bands have the potential to network with one another, and I think that's another thing that artists need to get involved with, working with other. It's not me. It's us.
Right. That's something that we sort of would like to try to do with yourlocalnote.com, sort of be the center where bands can
Right.
be part of a community.
Right.
And that's why we only do Philadelphia.
Right.
Because we want to start out small and try to see if we can develop that community.
Yeah, community is important, and band community is important, and band, and helping each other. I mean, and staying at the show even after your set's over.
Right.
That drives me crazy too. I mean, bands, and not my band, any band. I
Right.
mean, like, you really should stay at
Yeah.
least as long as you can. At least the band before and the band after. I mean, hang out.
Yeah.
Like, help support your fellow musicians,
Yes.
even if I don't know. I just think I think sometimes we get a little bit into the me world and not enough into the us world, and sometimes that's a big problem.
Yeah, I agree. Let's just move a little bit away from individual songs and bands, but you have worked with all different genres.
Mm-hmm.
And we played. Chess was different from Silvertongue.
Right.
Is there a different approach that you have to do with each
Oh, yeah.
genre? I mean,
Yeah. Well, as I said, like with a chess or a single artist, you have to, you're putting the band together. They're an artist. They're not a band. With a band, it's a whole different thing. You have dynamics going on with a band, with different band members. I mean, sometimes it's a sigh of relief for bands to get a producer, because now I can tell the bass player or the drummer, and then the guitar player doesn't have to get pissed off.
You can be the bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
I can be the guy who says it all, because no one has to yell at me. You know what I mean?
and if they yell at you, you say,
I
"Get
don't
out."
even care. I'm used to it. It's like, okay, you yelling at me. Okay, now you're done. Now let's play it properly.
Nice.
But so a lot of times it actually makes things go smoother, and a lot of times bands too don't realize, like, you do a single. I mean, the money bands spend on trying to do 10 songs. 10 mediocre songs will get you nowhere. I don't care what anybody tells you.
We've been talking about this with bands. They'll put an album together, and I know how much money it costs.
Sure.
Even when they're doing it themselves, it's still
Right.
there's still time and effort. Why do you want to do 12 songs?
Now, I would do 12 songs if I was playing every night of the week or 5 nights a week all over the country, and I had at least 200-300 people at a show. I would definitely do an
Okay,
album
that
at
makes
that point.
sense.
Because I could get $10 from everybody in that room and love you, babe. But
But-
if I don't have that kind of
But
thing
if you're
going
just
on,
regional,
that's crazy.
If you're just in the city, you can't be playing every
It
night.
makes no sense to me. And when you put out a single, think of all the things. Even if you did 5 songs, now you got those 5 songs. What are
Yes.
you doing? Did you do everything you possibly could on every one of those songs to make it absolutely the best you can? I bet not. So do one song and see how it goes. Promote it. And now you got a CD release party every gig you play.
Yeah.
Right? So then do another single, right? And then after 2, you might be starting to get some feedback from your fans. Hey, you know what? That first song was great. And that
Yep.
second one, I'm not sure. I really like what you... So now guess what your third single's going to be?
Right.
A lot like the first one, but
Right.
only even better. So, I mean, you can make some mid-course corrections. You put a 5, 6, 7 song record out, you're done.
Yeah.
And how many times have you seen bands do this big record? They do this big CD release party and nothing.
Right.
It's the end of it. I mean,
Right.
it makes no
and,
sense.
And even if they do well, they're only probably getting 4 or 5 songs out there. The other 6, 7,
Gone. No one even knows.
and that's
It's
that's
the
an
craziest
issue.
thing now. I mean, it wasn't crazy years ago.
No.
Right, just like anything else. But now it's a singles world. It's like it was in the 60s from when I remember really as a young kid. I remember hearing just singles all the time. I didn't even know what a record was.
And the B-side.
Right.
You got
I
the
never knew
45
what
and the B-side.
I mean, it was like I never even knew what an album was. It's
Right.
and an album's and then when the albums really started hitting, that was like life, and it was amazing. But nowadays, I mean, people don't even if it's not on their phone, they're not going to read it. So you just want to hit them with a great song and get the conversation going. That's my opinion.
Okay, so you encourage people to just get a single, do the best you can, get that out,
And
and
get
if
it out.
you got something else,
And do another one later on.
The best you can.
Right, and do the best you can, and just keep putting these singles out, because then you're putting out and you're focusing the listener.
right?
I mean, it's very difficult. You're not a big label. You're not going to say
No.
this is my single out of 12 songs.
Right.
I mean, you're just not going to do that. So if you only have one single, it's going to be pretty easy. What the writers are going to focus on and all that.
There's only one band that we know of. I think it's Track Jackets, who released a single, every couple of months, and then at the end of the year put it together.
Put it together.
And
Perfect.
I think it was a Track Jackets. Yeah, and that's the only band that I seen do that.
Yeah.
Everyone
It's a
else
smart way to do it.
Everyone else seems to be EPs. I get EPs. That's 4 songs. You can work on 4 songs. But once you start getting into 8, 9, 10, 12 songs,
Right.
boy, that's and you don't have the backing of a record company
Right.
promoting it. That's
Right.
I think as
Your
you said,
message gets diluted.
Yeah.
And just like anything, it's just like any kind of marketing whatsoever. I mean, you want to focus people to something.
Mhm.
Because that's and live or die by it.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did touch on that it's a singles world. I guess my question, I did want to get your take on the music industry right now. Record companies are struggling because they can't sell CDs.
Right.
Do you see the large record companies going away, and then we just have smaller companies that can move and make decisions faster, because we're in a world where you have to make fast decisions, and the big corporate model is it basically a dinosaur?
Well, I mean, the bottom line, to do Jay Leno, to do Jimmy Fallon, to do all those, it's a major labels world. You're not going to be an indie and get on those kind of television programs, which really are the cornerstone of breaking new acts. I mean, those late night shows are where it is, to be honest, still to this day. So, I mean, major labels really help with that. Of course, if you have an indie, but a lot of the indie bands that make it are bands that are touring all the time. Arcade Fire, like they won the Grammy 2 years ago. I mean, it's like, no kidding. They've been around for 10 years, playing venues forever. I mean, they didn't just come around. They've been around forever because they're the true indie band.
Mhm.
You play everywhere all the time,
All over the
forever.
country.
And then that's how it works. But if you're going to be a quote unquote indie band with indie quote unquote songs, and you're playing once in a while in Philly, good luck. It's just that's a tough road to hoe.
Because you can't build a following.
not only that, I mean, if you're not having like hit songs or anything really strong, then you're just like a lot of other people. So I mean, why would I go see you when I can see 5 of you other venues? I mean, like, what's the draw? So that's the key. So it's a live show performance that's amazing and a great record.
Very cool.
That's just my opinion.
Okay, David, appreciate you hanging with us. We're running out of time.
Okay.
But let's talk about the last song before we go. "Lose Myself" by Sarah Michelle.
Also, before we get into
Yeah.
that, I would just like to talk to people about the Grammy chapter here in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Because I'm a national trustee and I've been with the Grammys for a while. I mean, I always hear from bands all the time, how do I network? How do I get out?
Yeah.
You have an amazing opportunity here in Philadelphia between Grammy U and the Grammy chapter. And it's GrammyPro.com. You can go on. It's an amazing way to network with the people who are actually doing things in the city musically. I mean, there's a lot of great people on the board. We do a lot of very informative events. We have them all the time. You can go to Grammy.com or GrammyPro.com and see the Philadelphia chapter. Some of them are free, even for non-members. I just think, like, if you're really seriously interested in networking and meeting some professional people that do this for a living, that's a great spot to go to.
Okay.
So I just wanted to throw that out there for your audience.
Absolutely. We'll put that up on our site too. We'll make sure we get that info on the site and keep reminding people of that. All right, then let's talk about Sarah Michelle here and "Lose Myself." What attracted you to Sarah? Or did
Sarah,
she come to you?
she came to me. She had a song that was actually produced by a producer out in St. Louis, and it was close. It was close, but as we say, no cigar.
Right.
So I got the team, the Cam Huff and Damon, because it's more of like a pop thing, and we kind of did some live stuff with it as well. I work a lot with Chuck Treese, who's a great musician too, so he's on this as well. So we did this song for her, and she just did a video out in Los Angeles, and she's about to release her single as well.
Very cool. All right, the song is called "Lose Myself." Before we get to it, just want to remind you that we're streaming 24/7. 24/7. You can get your free app from the respective stores. Just go to them, type in YLN, download it for free. We've got another vidcast coming up on Wednesday. We're going to be hanging out with the Skinny Cool Kid on Wednesday. Yes. So that's coming up on Wednesday. And, of course, we've got a featured artist this week is Peter Grock. He's on our homepage. You can check him out. And we have a new one every Monday. So lots of good local musicians here on yourlocalnote.com.
So no donuts for the Skinny Cool Kid?
No donuts.
Gotta keep
Although on his website he's barbecuing.
I don't know. Just maybe the Atkins diet, all protein.
So we'll hang with him on Wednesday. David, again, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure being here. It's great.
And
No
there's probably more I could talk to you about, but we're actually running a little bit over.
I'm sure we are. It's the story of my life.
There we go. All right, closing things out with "Lose Myself," Sarah Michelle, and of course we've been hanging with David Ivory right here on yourlocalnote.com.
And thank you for doing this, by the way. Great show, and you're a good man for helping this happen. I really am.